like we've been talking about how BRICS has been emerging as a challenging entity to the Western influence. Very recently, BRICS appeared to be the only intragovernmental organization which has actually sanctioned Israel for their wars of crime, of their treatment of the Palestine-Gaza situation. They have not only levied sanctions in terms of calling their ambassadors back from Israel, but they've also tried to levy financial sanctions in whatever aspect they could do that. They have tried to cut off the trade ties, the multilateral trade, unilateral or multilateral trade ties that they were engaged in. They've also, although they're not a military entity, but they've also vowed to end any military transactions with Israel. So which seems to be opposing the dominant world order, where it's all support for Israel.
Yeah, there's no question about it that these recent flare-up in Gaza with Israel running amok with its genocidal rampage has heightened the contradictions in global order, in the sense that I don't think there's been anything, at least in my lifetime, that's been so visible in terms of Israeli atrocities, war crimes, crimes against humanity, targeting of civilian infrastructure, hospitals, and so on, that for the United States to be the only power to basically supply Israel with whatever it wants, needs, nonstop since October 7th, since October 8th. What this has done is, and it's for everyone to see, it's positioned the great superpower that claims to be on the side of democracy, freedom, and human rights as the main culprit in this genocidal campaign against the Palestinians. And so, when we're coming back to these forces that are gravitating towards more multipolarity, here is a specific incident in which it's crystal clear that the vast majority of the world, and even some of the other big players, certainly Russia and China, but even some European countries as well, because of their populations. I'm not saying their governments are so great, but the popular uprisings and demonstrations have been fantastic in England and the United States and other European capitals, of course, other countries in East Asia and certainly in Latin America, as you were mentioning. I mean, the first ones to withdraw their ambassadors from Tel Aviv, as well as just ending diplomatic relations, condemning what Israel is doing, and calling for an immediate ceasefire. They've come at the beginning just from the Latin American countries. So I think that what this has shown is that the emperor has no clothes. The United States is so exposed right now of being to put it mildly, on the wrong side of history, that I think that this is accelerating the trend towards more multipolarity for countries, smaller countries, not looking anymore to the IMF and World Bank, but looking more to China and Russia. You see this in Africa, these coups against trying to get Africa out, as a neo-colonial power. And they've been successful. And you've seen some of them waving Russian flags and this type of thing. So these are clear signs that the world has changed. So when you ask, when we get there, quite frankly, we are there. We are there where the United States 20, 30 years ago, 40, 50, it would do whatever it wanted to do anywhere in the country, overthrow Latin American. I mean, it still tries to, but clearly it does not have that force or power to do that today. So the point is that the Gaza uprising on October 7th really represented what, going back to Frantz Fanon, within the zone of non-being, and there's no greater zone of non-being than the Gaza Strip, most densely populated population, routinely bombed in one Israeli bombing campaign after the next. So there's no greater and heroic example than these highly oppressed people, the people of Gaza, fighting back against. And I think that that's the psychology of this, that the collective West fears so much, that these formerly colonized people who we continue to have a neo-colonial relationship with, that they will one day fight back. And that is the image of the Palestinian fighters right now, trying to get back their land and assert themselves as a people, that the international community has to address, which is, of course, what Trump and Biden as well were saying. Oh, forget about the Palestinians. Don't even mention the word. Let's just have state-to-state normalization in the Saudis. That project is gone.
Yeah.
Palestine is once again front and center, and I think it is intricately tied to the process of global multipolarity.
Yeah, and just a case in that point is that despite the fact that this entity, BRICS, is emerging as a challenger to the to the norm, the Western dominance, primarily led by US, but the world, it seems, is not ostracizing them. In fact, it's embracing it. In fact, just now they have 40 countries that have applied for membership, and their fate will be decided in the next meeting in 2024. So it seems like that they're garnering more and more support. The world is trying to get behind them. And with the addition of these oil giants as new members to BRICS, it seems like that it's gaining more momentum, which would certainly be a force to be reckoned with in future.
Yes, and I mean, you mentioned these petrol stations, these countries in the Gulf. What is also going on here, and this is obviously relevant to our topic of multipolarity, is that these countries, the Saudis, the Emiratis, Bahrain, and others, are seeing what we are seeing, and that is American decline. The influence of the United States in these places has declined significantly, and these countries are slightly fearful of if the United States one day doesn't like some ruler of some country, they will try to undermine them, and so on and so forth. So these countries have cleverly thought that it's best to not put all your eggs in one basket for the United States. So they have, especially the expansion of kind of deals and trade with China. That's I mean, as we remember now, I mean, something that we would never have imagined, at least I would never have imagined, considering the level of animosity that was there for now decades. But the rapprochement, the reconciliation between Iran and Saudi Arabia was huge news. And actually, even before China, what people don't know is that actually Russia had initiated that. So, you have these two models. On the one hand, you have Eurasian integration, the Belt and Road Initiative, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, etc., all cooperative. And on the other hand, you have the United States and Israel. Israel is, kind of pushing these things sometimes. Oh, it's all about war. It's all about Iran. It's all about we need to bomb Syria. We need to do this. So you have these two poles, and it's not shocking why much of the world would much more prefer a peaceful process, what the Chinese call a win-win situation, in which their countries can develop in meaningful ways that they have been hindered heretofore by institutions like the World Bank and the IMF.